million users. That's represented for people from over 200 companies. And it is the #1 B2B platform if you are serious about amplifying your business and accelerating the growth to new levels. But the interesting thing is less than 1% of users are actively engaging on this platform. And if you are not one of those 1%, this episode is going to be right up your alley because we're going to be talking about how to organically grow your audience on LinkedIn. And I'm super excited to introduce to you our guest today. This is Chantelle Botha, and I had the pleasure to meet her from halfway around the world through, interestingly enough, LinkedIn. So we are living proof. Welcome, welcome, welcome to the show. I'm excited to have you here as our guest because you have an extraordinary story on LinkedIn.
I do indeed. And thanks so much for inviting me on, Christine. It's really exciting to be here. So I suppose you want me to intro what my interesting story is.
I absolutely do.
So I started my business just over 3 years ago. And in that time, I have grown to just over 60,000. I think I'm on 62,000 at the moment. Followers organically. I have done 0 paid advertising, and I've done that all organically. So that's my interesting story.
I think this is fascinating because one word is everything in what you said, which is organically. Because, guys, heads up, if you are using bots, automated technology, or anything that is trying to game the system to build your audience, and there's a lot of people out there selling those services, it is in breach of the terms and conditions of LinkedIn, which can lead to one of 2 consequences. Number 1, small thing, you get put in LinkedIn jail, which for a week can feel like forever if you are trying to grow your business when you have no way to communicate on that platform. Or worst case scenario, they will kick you off the platform. So I want to talk about this. How did you start and why did you choose LinkedIn as your preferred place to start building your business?
So before I answer that question, I'm going to just address this LinkedIn jail. I have been in LinkedIn jail, and it was the heart stop moment of my business.
Mm-hmm.
Now, I teach LinkedIn to my clients, and I always say, do not do certain things. Do not go beyond a certain number of connections a day. Do not view too many profiles. As long as you're consistent on LinkedIn, and you just do it in slow increments, you'll be fine. Okay. So no viewing 100 profiles a day, because that's just ridiculous. You're asking for jail.
Thank you for being honest about this, because so many people don't talk about being in LinkedIn jail, but it is the heart stopping moment. What happens if this whole momentum stops in an instant?
But that's the thing. And you know what, Christine, again, I know I'm not answering your question directly. We're kind of deviating here. What I realized when I got locked in LinkedIn jail is that I'd been doing my marketing incorrectly. The thing is, my followers are all on social media. I haven't built a decent email list. Now, if I get shut out of LinkedIn, I lose all of those followers instantly. And I think this is an important message for people who are marketing their business. Make sure that as much as you're visible on socials, you are also building an email database so that you at least own those followers.
Here's a one hint. I'm going to totally do this and then bring us back on track. If you are on LinkedIn and they are following you, a LinkedIn event under your corporate page allows you to have the email list of everybody who joins your event. If you do this under your personal page, you do not get their email lists. So get active on the platform. And you know, one of my core strategies that I lead my clients through with my business under the Business Skill Accelerator is, in fact, events. I will help you do that well on LinkedIn so that you actually capture LinkedIn email addresses, even for people that are not first connections. So this is a good hint here, actually, to come back and follow up with me. Let's have that conversation. If you didn't know that, because I can see the light bulb go off on your eyes going, what? Say, what?
I didn't know that. There you go. I've learned something.
So here we go, adding value right out of the gate. So talk to us back now. Let's go back to the question. How do you start building organically? Watching the rules, trying to play within the guidelines to be so successful at it. What were your strategies and how did you approach it?
Christine, I had 2 questions when I started, and it's very similar to what you talk about in your Business Accelerator program. Effectively, one is you have to know your market, and number 2, you have to know your message. If you don't know your market and you don't know your message, you're going to end up posting about your lunch, and you're going to end up posting about the traffic this morning, and you're going to start deviating. So I always say to my clients, find your golden thread, right? And your golden thread for me or for my clients boils down to three questions. Who are you? What's your value add? And where are you going? And that's kind of the invisible flavor. If you can impart that message in every post that you do, you've got your golden thread nailed. Don't talk about politics. It's not your game. Stay in your lane. Talk about the thing that you do really well. But equally, make sure that you're building the right audience. And here's another lesson that I've learned through this journey. When I started building my audience, I mean, step one of my process is connect. Step two is engage, but step one is connect, because you've got to start building this audience. And I connected with everyone. Okay, not Bitcoin miners. I wasn't that, non-strategic. But I connected with everyone. I'm a career coach. So everyone, or they say that 70-80% of people are passively in the job market. So I thought, well, as long as I go for managers, C-suite executives, I'm sort of hitting my market. But here's the thing, I missed it. So I'm getting a lot of tire kickers in my audience at the moment because I haven't been as strategic with my target market selection. And I think that's a valuable point.
It is absolutely a valuable point, and there's a lot of opinions about connect with everybody, don't connect with anybody. It is a connecting platform. How can you end up in LinkedIn jail if you are connecting? There's all kinds of questions around that, but you need to understand what this platform is all about. This platform is about business, and particularly it really does well in the business to business arena, and that's certainly the business where you and I are playing with our businesses. But the thing that it's looking for isn't likes, followers, and even video and newsletters haven't been the things that are really accelerating your reach in this platform. It is engagement. And I mean engagement specific to conversation. So as you're crafting this reach out, connect, and kind of enrollment into your ecosystem, what's really important is you are designing your content to be conversation sparking. And more than just, hey, congrats, or gee, great job, or how interesting. Like, we're talking sentences of conversation. When you do that, there's two benefits. Number one, LinkedIn starts to love you and follow you and amplify you. And that, let's just take the easy ride to the lift there. But the second thing is, every time someone does have an enriched comment, their whole network sees you. That second and third degree conversation, the connections in that wider audience, all start to see your content, and maybe even days later. It's not as instantaneous as, say, TikTok or Instagram. And so it can really start to shift you into places you never knew you could get reach to without paying for anything. So I'm curious, once you started your, connect, and then you're starting to enrich and kind of move that relationship forward, talk to about us, the importance of going analog.
It's my favorite expression, Christine. In a digital world, go analog. Now, I like to use LinkedIn, or I like to use the expression of what we do on LinkedIn as greasing the wheels. It is not the final destination. So LinkedIn is going to open those doors. You're going to connect with people. You're going to engage with people. You're going to start these conversations. But your ultimate goal has to always be, you've got to take this conversation offline. Because when we take that conversation offline, that's when we start building relationships. And it's all good and well to have 60,000 followers, but what are those followers doing for you? Are they adding value to your business? Are you adding value to their lives? And we can only do that when we take those relationships offline. So I think if I had to nail anything as a power punch, that would be my power message with regards to LinkedIn.
I absolutely love this. When you first said that to me, I think it was a mic drop moment, and I'm so glad we had the opportunity to share it here, because the truth is, relationships are not built entirely by you typing on a keyboard across a digital platform. It is about jumping into a conversation, and a conversation in our case was through Zoom and through a couple of different ways that you and I've now connected and have this much fun, playful relationship that's growing, that we can support each other. This is key. You've got to have the courage. And everyone says, well, how do I make friends as an adult? Like, you need to lead that conversation. You want to be the one who initiates, saying, hey, you're interesting. And so think about the flip side of that. Be interesting, spark curiosity, and saying, let's have a conversation. That does not mean go start pitching your product.
Correct.
It means Tell me something interesting about you. What's going on in your world? What's exciting about the future? Start to build that relationship. And I'm curious, when you are going analog, is there a way or path that you do that is more successful than others? Because obviously you've been doing this for a while. What works to getting people actually to a conversation?
For me, and I think one of the biggest techniques that I teach to my clients is what I call the advice-based principle. So when you're connecting with someone, or when you want to go analog and you want to have that coffee chat with someone, ask for advice. Because think about yourself. When a youngster or an intern had to approach you and say, oh, you've got the most illustrious career and I would love to do what you've done, would you spend a few moments giving me some tips and pointers? You feel honored, you feel appreciated, you feel seen. And these are the basic human needs. So the chances are very good that people are going to agree to that. So whatever context you can frame it in, ask for advice. Frame your request for a coffee meeting under the guise of advice. There is another technique I use, which is called the problem-solving approach, and I'm not too sure how it would work for your market, Christine. But for my market, remember, I work with people looking for their dream jobs. So what I say is find a company that has a problem, but obviously a company that you want to get into, and then pitch them for the coffee meeting based on how you could potentially solve that problem. Mm-hmm. So it's adding value all down the line. And you talk about curiosity, and curiosity is so important. Being interesting as opposed to I'm interested in talking to you, because then you're not adding value.
I think that's great. And actually, I will challenge you. One of the things that I actually get involved with a lot when I'm in the consulting capacity of my business is saying, how is your net new client growth going? If you are not seeing net new client growth, which means more clients coming in than those that are finishing their services and retiring or graduating, you're in dangerous territory, because especially in the current economic climate where we've got inflation and more costs, your profit is being squeezed, your revenue is being squeezed. And we say, when's the last time you looked at your first impression? The challenge why you're not seeing new client growth for most businesses is that you are speaking in the place of enlightenment and your client is in the dark, which means they're looking for you and they can't find you. And no matter how much money you spend talking the same language, you are wasting your dollars, because you're going to be walked right past because the language isn't connecting. And I have had lots of conversations where I've come in and said, how is it going? Would you like some perspective of a first impression from somebody who sees the gap? And then the invitation may or may not lead to, are you intrigued by closing the gap, and what priority is this? That's all about a sales conversation, moving things forward, but it's coming from the general place of, if you'd like to solve that problem, I have skills to help you or insights to share, and we can build that. But I think those two tips are fabulous. Thank you, Chantelle, for giving them. I want to now talk about the fact that if you are doing the same thing over and over again, how successful is that?
It's a good question. But I guess I'm proof of the pudding. It is successful. Christine, if I look back over the last 3 years, I started with a content strategy. I really started with a very strong content strategy. And over the years, so I started posting 4 times a day. That was my mantra. That was what I lived for. And that's how I started building my following. But it's also important to watch out for those vanity metrics. I never really watched the numbers. I was always looking, am I getting leads in my inbox? Am I getting requests for conversations? Because to me, that's the measurable metric. That's the one that you want to follow. Mm-hmm. And as I've grown my business, I've shifted into more of an engagement strategy. I only post content once a day now. No longer on weekends. We're not that hungry anymore.
Everyone needs to have boundaries. Choose the life you want. This is your business.
There you go. There you go. Look, I was hungry when I started out, right? But like you say, now we've got the boundaries.
Yeah, true story.
But yeah, there you go. So I think people need to keep that in mind. Watch those vanity metrics. Just be aware of that. It's not all about the followers. It's about the quality of those conversations that you're having and those conversions that you're having.
Yes, I think this is the journey. As I hear your story, it is, I started with something very clear. I was evolving as it went. I recognized that I was attracting people. So in one sense, good learnings. What was I doing right? Let's amplify it. But then it's the opposite side of what is not working. Well, now I've got people who are tire kickers in my business. Clean that up. And it's true that there might be a very long runway for your potential client, and, keeping them in your ecosystem does have value. but you want to focus your most valuable resource, which is your time, around people who see your value, are curious, want to solve a problem, and are ready to move. So I'm curious, as we lead into the final question here, what are you doing right now? What amplifying? What's working for you? This is our final segment of the day. I love this conversation because this is the cheat sheet, everybody in the audience. Like, this is what somebody who's doing in their business is working right now. No guesswork. Take it, run with it. What is it for you in your business?
Christine, again, I'm going to go back to when I started the business. It was October 2019. It was just before we went into the worldwide pandemic. So I started my business online. And I was always hungry for this in a digital world, go analog. And how do I do this? And I had a lot of Zoom conversations. But what's working for me right now is really going analog. I am loving the fact that the world is opening up. People are hungry for face to face. There are so many exquisite events at the moment. I've joined clubs, societies. I do conferences. I do industry specific events. Whatever it is, I make sure that I'm out there, actually getting out of my front door and going, because that's where the real relationships are made. So if I can encourage, I think what's happened in COVID is we've got lazy. I see it with my Toastmasters club as well, and I keep complaining bitterly. They're running a hybrid meeting. And if we look at the true definition of Toastmasters, it's about standing up in public. What is this Zoom? We no longer need Zoom. So we've got lazy and we've become so reliant on Zoom. And yes, it's convenient. I get that. But get out of your house and go to where the people are, because that's what's making a huge difference in my business right now.
Well, and this actually will tie to a previous episodes. I'm going to just plant that here is, if you are showing up in person, show up as the professional you are, knowing where your value is, and lead into introducing yourself, lead into being curious about somebody else. The same is true on Zoom. We need to shift. Amateur hour is over on the land of Zoom. You need to show up as the same professional with great energy and be present. I love that, because this is a choice. How do you want to grow your business? LinkedIn, as if we started the conversation, 830 million people from 200 companies. Your audience is on that platform. But to truly see client growth and to see success in your marketing, it comes down to learning through conversation and enriched relationships. It's been an absolute pleasure to have you as our guest. Guys, this is Amplify Your Marketing Message. We are here to help you make impact, create more income, and truly have the life you want, building a business serving other businesses. Chantelle, thank you for being our guest. Guys, we will see you on our next episode. Can't wait to see you there. Take care.
Thanks, Christine. Cheers.